Hey everybody, I'm Scott with Motivated Code Pro. This episode is about working in crappy code. How many times have you started a job or you've started a contract and somebody's come up and whispered in your ear saying, "Oh, I hope you don't have to work on XYZ project. That code is crap. That code has had so many hands in it, it's difficult to maintain." And invariably, if you're the new person, you might just land in that code base. And so today I wanted to talk about how code becomes crap code. But before going any further, and in the interest of full disclosure and experience from my own life, I wanted to tell a story about working in code that we created as a team that I later looked at and thought, what were we thinking? And we all have those moments where we're looking at code for the first time, or new code, somebody else's code, it's a new project, it's a new team, and you say to yourself, and maybe sometimes you say it to somebody else, hopefully you're not saying it to the person that wrote the code, what were they thinking, right? What were they thinking? You know, what went into this? And so I wanted to just tell this quick story about, we had a project where we had written a significant mobile app for a company, manufacturing company, and they had a manufacturing system on the back end, and we built the server side of that in Java, and we built the client side of that using Sencha Touch, and so all of those pieces had fit together very nicely, and we were basically done. And then the company went through a significant change, and they brought in another manufacturing system that's to be their back end. And so we had, in a very short period of time, needed to basically uproot every piece of the app. I mean, the visual stayed the same. That was really about it. We had to rewire everything. All of the tables had changed. All of the, just everything about the data was different. And so you can imagine, if you're working in code that's been completely working already, we needed to make the code work with as much of the old code as we possibly could, because this needed to get done yesterday, like a lot of software projects, right? And so we're rushing and we're hurrying and we're bending existing code into place to work with this new database setup and new processes on the back end. And we had a very short period of time to do it, and we rushed, and we got it to work. And when you looked at the app, it was all there and it looked great. Pause, come back a year or so later and look at that code to solve an unrelated problem. And I was like, what were we thinking? And then it hit me. The complete change in the back end, and the complete, so many changes in the business requirements and stuff that came with that back end change. And so it really struck me that we don't always know what the history is of a piece of code, right? Every piece of code has a history along with the business requirements and stuff associated with that code that you don't always see in the code. You just look at it and you say, what were they thinking, right? And so I had that experience with a bit of my own code and with the code from my own team, and so that was really eye-opening, and so I've looked at the what were they thinking moments a whole lot different since then, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So on with the show. Let's start here. Remember, crap code, even the harshest things, even the lousiest vendor-generated code that has had 500 pairs of hands in it, that code was somebody's brilliant idea at one point, and the best of intentions poured into building that software, and that's just the way that it is. And over time, with changing business requirements, ill-conceived business requirements, changes in the law, new customer requirements and demands, and all of those things and many more, and you could add to that list, of course, all of that stuff has to be done yesterday. So the last 10% of the time on any project is always cram, even at the outset of a project, right? And so when you consider that later, when you're adding to the code base, when programmers turn over, when new people come in, and you have to get this business requirement out quickly so that we can make money for the company. Remember, that's why we're here, to make money for the company, not for our own ambitions and skill generation and development. It's about moving the company forward. And so people that are running the company don't really care if the code is crap. They'll say they do, but most of the time they're about, let's get it out there, we'll worry about that later. And later doesn't really come, and that's another ingredient that creates crap code. I know there are exceptions. Occasionally, like with software companies and really good programming managers, they will actually come back and clean up that code after it goes live. That's called creating technical debt, and then there is the payment of that technical debt, which is the topic of a whole other video coming up. But anyway, with crap code, like all code, there's really opportunity in chaos. And I know I've been contracting and consulting for a long time, and many times I've landed, feet first in crap code that was built years ago by 20 different people across 20 different changing requirements and all of that kind of stuff. And I have learned to volunteer for that duty because I know that that's where I'm going to learn a lot about the system. That's where I'm going to build credibility with the people that are running the project and the people that run the business. And it's just a good move for you as a software developer to just smile and say, I'll do it. I'll work in what everybody's calling the crap code and what everybody shuns and runs away from. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's good for your career. I think it's good for you. It's good for your place in the project and on the team to be willing to work in what people are calling crap code. And again, remember, even crap code was the apple of some developer's eye and some business manager's conception at some point. And in the end, if it gets out there and it does what it does, or does what it's supposed to do, and people are making money on that, that's the end game. The end game is the company makes money and you move on to the next project. And don't gossip harsh about the crap code and don't complain too much about it. It can move your career forward. Well, what about some technical advice for working in what people are calling crap code, or what were they thinking kind of code? So my advice is put your best foot forward, do what you know how to do. You don't have to follow suit with what 20 other people have done over 20 different projects. Comment. Leave lots of white space in the code. I think that's huge. Say what you're doing with English and don't write a book. Make it concise, make it clean, and make a positive difference for what people call crap code so that your code doesn't become part of the what were they thinking moment that somebody else might have in the future. All right, so oftentimes code that has a storied past is labeled crappy code or what were they thinking code, and I want to offer the suggestion that it's a matter of perception and perspective on your part. You can make a positive difference. You can add to the code base in a positive way and be better thought of by your team members and by your teammates, and people that work in difficult code get to work on better projects later. That's a promise. I'm Scott with Motivated Code Pro. Please like and subscribe and keep coming back.